All right, welcome back. Well, come a little closer. Welcome back, friends. Easter morning on the homestead. Very chilly but sunny. I hope you guys have a good day planned. We're heading down about 1:30. Some friends are opening up their home. They've got a big piece of property. They said they've got a really tough hill climb, so all the kids and everyone's bringing their dirt bikes. We're going to see if we can get up that. So I'm looking forward to that. So today I wanted to address something. One of the most common questions that comes up. And it's, guys, it goes something like this. I just graduated high school. What should I do? Should I go into the trade? Should I go into the military? Should I get an advanced degree? What advice can you give me? Well, I don't know that I can give you any advice, but I can share my personal story. I can share with you my regrets, what I would have done different. Regrets are a dangerous thing because if you ultimately find yourself in a place where you're content and you're happy, I would be very reluctant to go back and change anything in fear of it would have taken me in a different direction that wouldn't have brought me to where I am now. So I don't subscribe to regrets, but you can't help to have a little bit of tinge when you think back, oh, if I would have done this, or if I would have had the courage to ask this girl out, would my life have been different? You know, how can you not, right? So I'll just give you just a brief history. And I'll give you maybe a couple things that I have learned. So when I was 17, I decided I always had kind of a fascination with the military. I wanted to go into the military. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. My dad was drafted into the Vietnam War, but didn't go in because of a medical condition. So I didn't come from a real strong military family. It wasn't something that we really talked about, but it was just kind of just naturally in me. So when I was 17, I remember I went to the recruiting office. And it was one of those recruiting offices or stations kind of in a strip mall where they had all of the different branches of service. And at that time, I really didn't really understand the difference between what the Marine Corps was versus the Navy versus the Army, all of that. And I remember walking in there. And as soon as I walked in, this Army guy came out, you know, because those guys are like, you know, they're pretty anxious to get new guys coming in. And so he walked out, and he was kind of a short, dumpy looking guy, and he had like little librarian glasses on, and he was shorter than me, and I was looking at him, and then like a moment later, from the other door came a guy from the Marine Corps, and he was in the most beautiful uniform. Of course, you know, no one does uniforms better than the Marine Corps. The tan shirt and the pants with the stripe down them. I mean, he was tall, square-jawed. I mean, he was perfect. He was how you would imagine a soldier could be. And so I didn't even waver. I looked at the Army guy with the librarian glasses, and I looked at the Marine, and I went in with the Marine. So I was still in high school at the time. So I talked to him, and of course, I took the ASVAB test and all those sorts of things, but I wasn't old enough to commit at that time, and I needed the permission of my dad. So I remember, I don't remember all of it, but I brought it to my dad, and he was very much against it. You know, it was like, no, that's not something you want to do. And I think I even actually had the Marine. He even came out to the house to talk to my dad, and I think my dad just ran him off. So I was not having that, right? So the funny, you know, and then of course I graduated high school, and I thought to myself, well, I'll just wait till I'm 18 and I'll do whatever I want, so I'll go in then. But you know how life goes on, you know, when you're that age, you know, you just don't know what to do, and you're going in a million different directions. And I think I ended up getting a job and started working in construction, and you know, you start building those ties and those commitments, and you sometimes it will kind of squash your dreams a little bit. And so I guess as far as regrets go, I've always had a regret of not going in to do that. And I've asked myself why was that so important to you? And I think it's just inherently built into some guys. I hate to use the sheepdog mentality. It's such a tired old cliche that is cringy at this point now, but I think it's true. There's just something put in some guys that just you have a sense of obligation to protect not only your family, your loved ones, but your community and your country. And you often find those guys in the military, law enforcement, fire service. And it's interesting, you know, because as I went on, I kept finding myself drawn to those and drawn to the fire service, which I worked in for a while. And I guess for me, to kind of recapture that lost opportunity of not going into the military when I was younger, is why one of the reasons wildland firefighting appeals to me so much, because it is It is not the same. I'm not going to compare wildland firefighting to going into combat, but it is similar in its command structure, in that you have a group of men and women that are working together for a common goal against a dangerous adversary. So I'm not surprised that I find myself being drawn to that. So let's back up a little bit. So here's the thing. So if you are unsure what you want to do, you just got out of high school, there's a couple things. If you want to be a professional, if you want to be an engineer or an architect or a doctor or a physicist or anything like that that's going to require advanced degrees, there's nothing that I can really tell you. You know what you need to do. You need to go and you need to get that education. You need to get that training so that you can be allowed into that world. There's no end way around it. And if that's your mentality, you don't need me telling you anything. You kind of know what to do, and you're probably going to go do that. If you're more like me, and you don't have the math to be a physicist, and you don't have the patience for 12 years of school to be a doctor, and on and on and on, I always found myself to be a little bit more entrepreneurial, and more into doing things that was working with my hands, right? And so naturally I went into construction. That was easy for me because that's kind of what my dad, that's just what I knew, right? So if I was going to do that again, if you're thinking about that and you don't know if you want to go to college and rack up $250,000 of debt, and you want to go in and you want to build yourself a career or something that's going to serve you well and give you lots of options, I can help you with that on the construction side. So not all construction is going to be equal, and there's some things that are a lot better than others. Concrete, roofing, framing, the basic things that you see they're really great to get into and to do for a short period of time. But I would go into that with a goal is I'm going to get as much information out of this as I can. I might go work on a framing crew or a concrete crew or a roofing crew do that for 6 months, go on, and for a couple years to get those to understand how to do it, so that you can bring those things to bear in your life when you need them the most, when you're building your own home, when you're building your own homestead, or whatever you want to do, or just to be an all-around capable man, a man that's able to take care of business, a man that's able to create and to build and to provide for his family. Because you don't want to be single-faceted. You want to be multifaceted, like a diamond. A diamond is cut and it reflects light from many different directions. You may find that the economy may go into the tank, and you have been very laser focused on one particular thing, and if that job evaporates, if you're no longer able to do that, maybe from injury or just burnout, then you'll find yourself basically starting over again, and you don't want to do that when you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. So being multifaceted, if YouTube doesn't work out, I can go drive a truck. If truck driving doesn't work out, I can go run equipment somewhere. If that doesn't work out, I can go work as a ski patroller. There's lots of things that I can do. I'm not really worried about it. I can adapt myself to pretty much any role. So nothing against concrete, roofing, and drywall and all those trades. Those are very important to do. However, they don't particularly pay well, and the work is really hard on your body. If you want to see a sad case, just go look at a guy that's in his 50s or so that's still up on a roof pounding shingles. He's going to be pretty beat up. It's just hard on your body. It's a young man's sport. So if I were going to get into construction, I would go into one of probably two trades. Your best bets, in my opinion, are going to be either a plumber or an electrician. The plumbers and the electricians of all the trades have been the very best at protecting their trades, meaning that it takes skill and education to get into those, and they're very controlled. Electrician, for example, would be my number one. If you decide to go into that, you can go two routes. You can either kind of go residential or you can go commercial, and you'd be looking at like a 3-year trade school. But the good thing about electrician school, in this area anyway, is that a company will hire you and you can work as an apprentice, and sometimes they will pay for your school, and you'll be going to school twice a week at nighttime. And then when you come out of there, you're going to have that journeyman certificate. And when you have that certificate as a journeyman, as an electrician or a plumber, you have so many options. If you decide to move from the West Coast to the East Coast, you'll take that certificate with you. That's going to give you work. It's going to give you something to fall back on that you can always make a really good living, because journeyman electricians and plumbers, they do very well. And it's only going to get better, because unfairly and falsely, there has been this idea that's come up that these blue collar jobs, machinists, welders, electricians, is oh, you can't hack it in school, or you're not smart enough to go to college, then you have to kind of wash out and filter down into these trades. This is not true at all. These trades are in demand, and only going to be in more demand. You come out 5 years, 10 years from now, you come out as a young guy with a journeyman certificate in one of these trades, you're going to be able to work anywhere you want to do it, because just folks are just not getting into it. They're not, young guys are not wanting to put the hard work in, and it would be a great life decision. And what are you talking about? 3 or 4 years to do this? And let's say you get through your apprenticeship and you don't like being an electrician. Well, you've got options there. Not only have you learned a tremendous amount, you've learned good work ethic, you have a greater understanding, you've been able to work as a team with guys, you understand the whole thing. You can go pursue something that you want to do. Maybe you hang your own shingle, maybe you go do your own thing, or you decide that I want to go pursue this or that. And if that doesn't work out, you fall back on it. You can always go back and get that job. So that's what I would recommend. I also worked as a construction superintendent. That was a pretty good job too, in that I got to travel around a lot. I really enjoyed the work. It wasn't super dirty. I wasn't cold and out in the elements and all of that, and I did enjoy that. But to get that particular job, usually you have to have a really broad understanding. You have had to work in a lot of different trades so that you can have a pretty good idea what's going on. So just out of high school, that's probably not realistic. But that would be my advice to you, is to get into something like that. I mean, I know a lot of, when I think back, when I think of my friends and acquaintances, guys that I know that are really doing well financially and have that security, those particular jobs come up, especially commercial electrician, plumbers, and nurses. That's the other one. Think of Meet the Parents. When I think of male nurses, I don't know why I still have a hard time with that, and I probably shouldn't. It's a great job, and some of the most financially independent people that I know are nurses. They're able to name their hours. They're able to work wherever they want. There's a great demand on it. I just find, I don't know. I have my personal hang-up about if men should be nurses or not, because I'm just old-fashioned and stodgy. But it probably wouldn't be a bad way to go either. I guess here's what I don't like about the male nurse thing, and it's got nothing to do with sexism. Well, maybe a little bit. Not so much as sexism, but it would rankle me to be working in an environment where I couldn't have the opportunity to be at the top. And so I guess it would rankle me and it would bother me to work in an ER on emergency room with these really talented surgeons, knowing that I could never be able to do that. I could never aspire to do that because I didn't go through medical school. I think that's my biggest hang up with the nursing profession. But I don't really know what I'm talking about. I mean, I went through EMT school with this. I'm rambling and spiraling now. I could go on and on about all these things. So I'm just gonna wrap it up. I can tell you about why, that'll be another video. I'll tell you why I thought that the fire service was going to be the perfect thing, meaning a full-time paid structural firefighter, and I did that. I worked as that, and I quit it. And I'll tell you that story why it was not at all a good fit for me, and I hated it. And it's not as good as you might think it is. But yeah, anyway. Have a happy Easter. I should have wrote some notes down and been a little bit more on track here, but that was kind of my experience, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was helpful. And, oh, I know what it was. Okay, let's finish up with this. we were out at a hoedown last night till about a little bit too late, so I'm not running on all 8 here today. If I had to do it over again, I'd get one of those trades under my belt. I would have I probably went to electrician school, done that, because it's good work. You typically work inside. It's what I would do is this. I would get one of those trades under my belt, and then I would build a house or buy a house, and I would get myself established. I would spend less time chasing girls and more time building my career and building my life and making myself the best possible candidate for a suitable woman, instead of wasting my time running around in bars and chasing girls for 10 years and accomplishing nothing. I'll tell you what, if you are in your mid-20s or so and you have worked hard and you've established yourself and you're financially secure, you've built or bought yourself a nice home in a nice area, and you are now in a position to attract a very suitable mate, you are going to be in the minority. While all these other guys that may be better looking than you, maybe smarter than you, maybe have a better personality than you, are looking like they're pulling all the birds and they're getting all the women and they're having all the fun. I'll tell you what, you're going to be the one laughing last when you find yourself established and they're still in their 35s with their hat backwards, running around like a teenager and looking like a fool. And operating from desperation, because there's nothing less attractive to a woman than desperation. And when you're not financially secure and you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from and you don't really know what's going on and the good times and the good time friends are all starting to evaporate, you're going to find yourself a hollow and an empty man. But if you keep the nose to the grindstone, establish that career, build that home, create that life, now you're in a position where you are head and shoulders above everyone else, and you can have your pick over these young women, these girls, because they want security. They want to be with a man. I think it's more important for any of them worth having to have someone that is faithful, honest, dependable, and trustworthy, that they know is going to take care of their children, going to take care of them. It's not going to run off and leave them. That's very attractive. And also, you're going to have confidence. You're not going to be acting out of desperation. You're not going to be grabbing onto the first woman that you meet that pays attention to you because you're so afraid of losing something. That's not a position that you want to be operating from. You want to be established. You want to have that confidence. You want to have that career. You can pick and choose. You can take it or leave it. And that way you're going to find a very suitable mate, a quality person, and hopefully raise a family and not have to go through the pain and suffering of divorce. And a lot of that, you are going to make that decision. You set the tone by how you set up and conduct your life. And in closing, would I recommend going into the military? I can't really speak to that because I haven't done it. You'd be better off to talk to someone who has done it. If Jack were to come to me and say that he wanted to go into the military, would I support him? 100%. But I'm certainly not beating that drum. You should do this, you should do that. I'm just not in a position to say it because I haven't done it. It would be foolish for me to comment on something I haven't done. But that's what I know. That's my experience. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.